Welcome to the Unwashed Asses, episode 54, recorded Friday, September 14th, 2018. Hey yo. So, Windows Phone is dead. I know there was like 3 users, including myself, of the thing, but I just found mine again while getting Halloween decorations out. And I figured, oh, you know what? Let's go ahead and see what this bad boy can still do, because I really like the phone. But Microsoft was insistent on killing off the platform. But I didn't think they would take it this far. I figured, oh, you know what? I take my tablet in, I load all my podcasts and music onto that. But what if I have just, my little phone? It's got 32 gigs of storage, more enough to hold all my media. It doesn't have to do anything except for play files. Well, apparently Microsoft's killed all support for it. Now, bear in mind, the last update they had was Windows 10 Mobile or Windows Phone 10. And at that time, they didn't have full-blown support for my phone, which was the Lumia 940. I think it was. It was either the 940 or the 950. I think it was the 940. Anywho, when I factory reset my phone last time, because it didn't take I had downloaded a beta version of the update and applied it to my phone. And it ran like garbage. So I went ahead, factory reset it, and at that time decided to make the jump over to Android because Microsoft announced it was ending support. And I've been super happy with my Nexus 5X. Brings me back to today. So getting the Halloween decorations out because, we're getting to that time of the year. Find my Windows Phone stash in an old jack-o'-lantern. Those plastic ones you get for like $1 at Walmart and you go trick-or-treating. Have to charge it up because, of course, the battery's dead. But after I get it fired up, find out like nothing's working. Sure enough, it latches onto my Wi-Fi network, but can't check email, can't configure an account. I can fire up the Windows Store, but you can't download anything because all the services have stopped. Even things like Skype. No, I mean, if email's not going to work, and I had a Microsoft account, sure as shit, Skype's not going to work. So the phone's essentially dead in the water. Okay, no problem. I did the PSP earlier in the year. I found a way to make that fucker upgrade despite Sony not wanting it to happen. Well, Microsoft has apparently pulled and destroyed any download links to get anything going on the phone, be it through the App Store on PC or the App Store on the phone. Because there was a trick to get around it, which is what I did in the first place with the Windows Insider program. Download a test version of Windows 10 and install it on the phone. Well, they have the app still there, but because the App Store is not supported for 8.1, you can't download anything. And in all my searching, I'm not able to find anybody who had like an individual link, or a file that you could download from their site, which is kind of shocking because I know there are a few enthusiasts. You'd think one of them would have had it up, and yeah, it's not available, and because that's the thing. Usually stuff like that you could get on like CNET or Major Geeks, or somebody has it somewhere. But no, apparently there weren't enough users of Windows Phone, and nobody gave a shit enough to keep the update stored separately. So it's disheartening because this phone was not my first smartphone, but my first foray into their operating systems. Because I was a huge Microsoft fanboy at the time, and I got the Samsung Focus for Windows Phone 7, and then when Windows Phone 8 came out and Microsoft gave everybody the first big middle finger saying, no, you can't upgrade your old phones to the new OS. You have to buy a whole new phone. It was upsetting, but I had an upgrade, so I used it, and now this, they didn't have Windows Phone 10 available for Windows Phone 8 users. There's only like 2 models that ever got official support. And then they killed off the mobile platform when Windows Phone 10 rolled around, which really sucks. And I know I can get like a launcher for Android that makes it look like Windows Phone, but it doesn't have the same functionality. And at this point, I've been using the Arrow launcher from Microsoft for a year and a half now, and I dig it. But it's disheartening that essentially I have a paperweight. And it's a Nokia. The fucker's heavy. It is very dense. But I don't know what to do with it because it is literally useless now. I can't browse the internet. I can't pull up things like YouTube. I can't download podcasts. It's junk now. And then I don't know what to do. Like, I don't want to throw it away, but at the same point, there's no real reason to keep a hold of it because it is just garbage at this point. Remember they had that little separate camera button? Ugh, it's disheartening. So, I digress. Third week in a row makes me realize that podcasts are a lot like murder. The first time, there might be some intent, probably an accident, though. It could go either way. Second time, we're starting to develop a pattern. You know, maybe the first time was an accident. The second time is just confirming whether or not you really want to do it. Third time, we're starting to become a serial killer. Especially now that we're settling into a schedule. Holy boy. Figuring out what the schedule is here. I'm thinking Fridays. Fridays are going to work best because it's the one day I have off every week where I'm kind of uninterrupted now that the boys go into school, where, you know, the weeks I don't have them, I have the house to myself until like 6 o'clock, so plenty of time. You know, I'm not under pressure to wake up and record right away when I'm feeling like shit. I can, you know, play some games, I can clean the house like I did today, and then record when I'm ready. Then when it comes to the weeks that, you know, he's at school, just record it like a creeper in my car with the digital recorder and then upload it at Starbucks. I think it worked well. Either way, yeah, this should work, at least for the foreseeable future. You know, terms and conditions subject to change. Man, can't believe it. We're halfway through September already, and it's still. Let me pull up the weather here. It is 88 fucking degrees out right now, and it's supposed to stay pretty much this warm all the way through next week until Friday when it starts to drop down again. Fuck Indian summers. Fuck this heat. I want my autumn. We got a real good taste of it, not only in Europe, but last week I got to wear a fleece pullover to work, and I wasn't uncomfortable, and that lasted for a whole day and a half. And it wasn't bad because there wasn't humidity the next few days, but it was starting to get warm again where that sun would beat on you. But now, you might be able to hear it. I haven't checked. I'm not going to check the recording until all said and done. Probably won't check it then. I had to turn the air on. Yesterday I was home all day, and it's like it's getting warmer, but at night it gets very cool out. And I have a rule that, you know, if it hits 78 in the apartment, fuck it, I got to turn the air on. And sure enough, around 5, 6 o'clock, it hit 79. I had to turn on the air. And it sucks because spring and autumn are really the only two seasons where I can tolerate having the windows open, and I want the fresh air. I want to, you know, have a good breeze. I want to be able to smell, you know, nature. But fuck it if this heat just doesn't want to relent. It's unforgiving. And so yeah, this is day 2 of having the air on. And I get it, you know, climate change is a thing. It's going to be hotter longer until, you know, we have our nice 2 days of autumn, and then it immediately kicks over into winter. Like a couple years ago, we had, you know, snow on Halloween. Is it so much to ask that we have a nice, easy transition into autumn? You know, the stores have their Halloween decorations on sale. They also have Christmas decorations on sale because fuck Christmas. And it's hard to get into the spirit. The decorations are nice, but when it's this hot out, it doesn't feel very, Halloween-y. But, like I decorated the house today. And I'm looking around like, oh, yeah, I've got the pumpkins and got the witch's brew recipe up and the spooky pumpkin and skeleton headlights. And it just, I have a light sweat because of how warm it is. Also, I'm incredibly fat, but at the same time, it's really hard to get into the mood. I've got nothing else on that. Halloween's coming and it's too hot. Dexter, the fuck you doing, buddy? Let's bring this in closer. All right, so what else has been going on? What else we got going here? I don't like the sound of my voice. D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. It was always the gateway to hell growing up, right in the middle of the satanic panic, where in 2 ritualistic sacrifices, I lost the bulk of my toys because they were of the devil. Local pastor came over. We had a bonfire, and had to dump them into a fire. The combined might of Voltron and Optimus Prime were not enough to save them, and I lost a lot of toys, all because of the satanic panic of the 80s and 90s. Most notable of which was Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I legit thought, oh yeah, Satan himself got into a partnership with Hasbro, and they started putting out this game. I didn't know it was. I don't know who owned it before Wizards of the Coast, but anywho, that's how brainwashed I was at the time. Like, even I was afraid of watching anything related to Dungeons and Dragons. I know they had a few commercials back in the day. It's like, oh god, the devil's trying to get me through the TV. But since then, I've matured and gone down a different path, as have several of my other friends. We supple at the Dark Lord Satan's nipple, and have played several games, either using Dungeons and Dragons rule sets or very much, inspired by the Dungeons and Dragons world of high fantasy. But I've never actually played the game itself. I've never sat down with a group, done the pen and paper, rolled up a character, gone on an adventure with somebody playing DM, and had these weekly meetups. It was always a thing of growing up, it was forbidden. Even though the satanic panic had mostly passed, those types of things growing up in and around the church were highly frowned upon. So while we could play games like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter, the actual D&D, heaven help you if anybody found a book on it or they saw anything more than a 6-sided die that wasn't tied to a Yahtzee set. So now at the ripe old age of 34, I stand on the precipice of being able to play D&D. A few work friends, one of which has been playing, pen and paper RPGs for years now with another group, decided, he wants to host his own campaign and he's going to do it with us. So it will be, no. Sorry, I fucked up the playback speed. I'm like, what's this little lever do? And that done fucked everything up. This I can turn up though. Recording volume. Can we just set it to 1? We can. All right, but it's too loud. Can we drop it down to? I'm sorry. These aren't things I should be doing while actively recording, because now you're gonna have to adjust the dial and turn up your phone or turn it down a little bit. But I want to make sure it's not too quiet, because that's my number one gripe when I listen to shows is that, the more often than not, podcasts are just way too quiet when you compare it to music. When you're, got it through the auxiliary cable or Bluetooth on your phone or in your car, you always have to turn the podcast way up. Anywho, I digress. So I was kind of flattered and enthralled with the chance, I get to sit down and actually play Dungeons and Dragons, roll up a character, embark on this this mythical quest. And immediately the evil shithead in my mind goes, oh no, you know what you have to do. You don't want to do it, but you have to because it brings you joy for whatever fucked up reason. You have to plot a way to kill every other player in the game. And within a span of 24 hours, yes, I had figured out and concocted a plan to kill every other player in the game. Now, there is an off chance that my fellow players may hear this, and I can't give away my master scheme. I can't tell you in case, they don't listen and one of you tells them. But we'll see. I could just be stopped cold in my tracks, but I like to scheme, and I'd like to think I could pull this off. Because that's the true game itself. I'm not out to, get a cool magic staff or a bitchin' sword and save the princess and get the gold. Nope, I have to ruin the game for everybody else. But that's not why you're here. You're here to listen to hopefully the last segment of the European vacation. When last we left, it was a Tuesday night. We were on the eve of travel to Amsterdam. So Wednesday was going to be the travel day. It was a matter of Rachel having to go into work for a half day. And then we were going to go to the train station in Hamburg. And it was a 5-hour ride then to Amsterdam. That left me kind of to my own devices until noon. Check out at the hotel was at noon. She was going to be back around then. And then we were going to walk the half hour to the train station because we had found it the night previous. Like, oh yeah, no, not a bad walk. So I get up, and I had determined at that point that I wanted some pancakes. I usually don't care for pancakes, but I had a craving like nobody's business. And because I had been at this point starting to get a little frustrated with German, which is going to lead into another side tangent here. Not been studying or practicing my German much since I got back because it feels like even though Duolingo says I'm 50% fluent and I can understand basics, I'd like to think, I was nowhere near competent enough to really use it or do much of anything over there, and it was embarrassing. And I realize in America I'm not going to have much of a chance to use German, and it's not going to be super practical. I know there's a lot of old people here that, either immigrated or were sons or daughters of immigrants, and it's just awkward at that point. Like, I'm in your house to fix your internet. Let me throw some rudimentary German at you just because I detect an accent or you have all this German memorabilia and there's an off chance that you do speak it. So I'm debating because most of the immigrant families here speak only Spanish and have their children translate. And there is a large number of mute and deaf customers where learning American Sign Language would be a huge benefit. It's not something I had considered before, but honestly, like, I've had at least one customer each month for this year where they've either been mute or deaf. And it's always been a matter of either busting out my phone to write notes or making sure if like dispatch has the comments in there that, they're mute or deaf, I bring in a notepad. However, it'd be great if I could just use my hands to talk. Same thing with Spanish. If I could just speak to them instead of using the kid as a translator. And that leads into, I'd like to continue learning German, even though it's out of spite, although it would be a lot more practical and beneficial to me if I learned, ASL and Spanish instead. And I'm not smart enough to be trilingual or, learn anything past another language. So I'm sad, but at the same time, again, more useful, and I'll be pulling my hair out less in the field. I don't know. So anywho, at this point I decided, I want pancakes, and I don't really want a hassle of going to a restaurant and sitting down and trying to, scrap together an order, only to be humiliated and have to do it in English, where they understand more English than I understand German. I'm like, well, what's one place I can go that I can't fuck up an order? McDonald's. It was never my intention while in Europe to dine at McDonald's. I'm like, I'm out and about. I should be trying new things. Such was not the case. I'm like, I'm going to get pancakes. So I pull open my phone, and again, I cannot praise Google Maps highly enough. It was definitely a lifesaver over there. Anything we wanted, we just punch it in, and either it gives you the subway directions, walking directions, mixture of both, and it was amazing. I loved it. So I'm like, okay, well, McDonald's. Where is the closest McDonald's? And funny enough, it's very nearby the train station. There's one inside the train station, and there's one just a few blocks away. So it's about a 20-minute walk. So I wake up, and since we're checking out that day, I make sure, pack up the hotel and begin my long sojourn over. And the day's really nice out. I'm just kind of taking it in because it is going to be my last day in Hamburg for the foreseeable future. So I want to make sure I soak up as much as I can. I don't know if I mentioned it the last time. I think I did, where, the city shuts down at 8 p.m., but it also doesn't really get going until like 9 or 10 in the morning. A lot of shops aren't open until then. And if you do see somebody in a store, they're usually cleaning, which I found odd. So, definitely late start and early close. It was different. But still, a lot of people out, getting to work, going to work, either driving or biking or just plain walking. So I go over to McDonald's, and much like Subway, it's an open storefront. They have a bunch of places to sit outside, benches and picnic tables and whatnot. I'm like, okay, well, I'll go get myself some pancakes and an orange juice. Go sit outside, enjoy the morning, and then go on an adventure. Now, the plan was, to get ein groß Frühstück, one big breakfast. Because that's what we have here. We have the big breakfast where you get, the hot cakes and the sausage and eggs, and it's just like a little combo breakfast there. They did not have ein groß Frühstück in Germany. They had a lot of little things, but no groß Frühstück. And at that point, I'm like, well, fuck me. I want pancakes, but I want hassle a lot. I want, no hassle a lot more. So it becomes the internal battle of convenience over desire. And this is the everlasting lesson I've taken away from Germany is I would do phenomenal over there in terms of weight loss because I don't like social awkwardness to the point where I will not get what I want at a restaurant. I will not order as much. I will keep my orders very simple just so I can get through it as quickly as possible. And that's exactly what happened. It was a thing of, all right, well, I'm not seeing anything on the menu that resembles the big breakfast. They had a lot of they didn't even have McGriddles. I was really heartbroken at that they don't know the deliciousness of a McGriddle. I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'll get 2 egg sausage McMuffins and some orange juices. I only intended to get a single orange juice, but because of the language barrier there, I somehow walked out with 2 orange juices. And the other thing is, unlike America, where they'll hand you your receipts after you place your order with a number and then call out either your name or the number so you know it's you, they just take the money and okay, they go fuck off. And yet you're left standing there am I getting the food? How long am I waiting for the food? And I'm just kind of standing up here awkwardly in this tiny McDonald's, trying to stay out of people's way and not doing a very good job at it. But eventually the person's like, here's your food. I take it outside and like, okay, well, I got 2 McMuffins and 2 orange juices. And so I, begin eating my breakfast, only to realize that the orange juice is mostly pulp. I fucking hate pulp. But I have nothing else really to drink. I left the water at the hotel. So it's like, all right, well, fucking just pound it down. Don't even let it hit your tongue. Just gotta hydrate. So I'm sitting there eating breakfast, and in this part of town, there were a lot more beggars. And on the walk over, I saw them setting up. And I hadn't really thought anything about it. And to the point where this gentleman comes up to the McDonald's. He's got a big backpack on and a dog. And it's like a traveling backpack, like a big hiking backpack. So he leaves the backpack outside, ties the dog up to it, goes inside to get his breakfast. Like, oh, he's a backpacker, or he's traveling, and he's like me. He's just going to stop for a quick, easy meal. And I'm sitting there eating breakfast, and this lady comes up, and she's begins like fawning over the dog, like, oh, that's so cute, and taking selfies with it, which I find weird. Like, you're taking selfies with this random stranger's dog. He's not even here. You can get an idea of what the dog's temperament is, but you can't be sure because you never know when it's going to just snap and literally snap at you. So at this point, I finish my meal. Don't really think much more of it, and I go throw away my garbage, grab a bottle of water, and I decide, all right, I need to find the train station. That way, when I go get Rachel, we can just say, hey, I know exactly where it is. Let's walk over to the train station, and not have to worry about not being there in time or losing it, all that nonsense. So head over to the train station, find it easy enough. Begin walking back to the hotel from the train station, and what do I see? I see the guy with the pooch and the backpack setting up to beg for the day. And it's at this point, like, I understand you still have to eat if you're a beggar on the streets, but it's something still strikes me as odd and wrong that you're just sitting on a corner in a busy city with your dog, taking money from strangers, and I don't know. It's always the question of what would I do if I were homeless? And I'd like to think, if I could scrape together enough. Well, first, begging's not even, part of the equation, because there's plenty of jobs out there. You might not want to work it. Like I delivered pizzas for 2 years. It was a huge blow to my ego, but bills had to get paid. And there's fucking where I live now, there's always beggars out in the middle of like by Walmart and the other stores and whatnot, just standing on the corner. One lady even brought her kids up to the front door of Walmart and had them sit on like these little plastic lawn chairs, like, please help. Like, fuck it. Do what I had to do for the past 2 years. Work 2 jobs, 3 if you have to. McDonald's is always hiring. Walmart's always hiring. It's aggravating. So same concept here. Like, there's got to be a way that you can find employment to the point where you don't have to resort to begging on a corner. But I don't know what the economic situation of Hamburg is. So it irritates me, but I keep walking, and there's at least 4 or 5 just on that one stretch of road. As I walk along, though, I come across the City Hall again, and Hamburg City Hall is by far, like, at that point, I had believed it the most beautiful building I had ever seen. The architecture and attention to detail was gorgeous. Rachel and I had walked by it the night before, and I had time to kill. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to sit here in City Square and just look at this building and, just kind of soak in the atmosphere and what's going on around me. And at this point, I'm like, all right, well, I'm sitting here. Let's get a little history lesson in. Let's learn about this gorgeous building, because there's a bunch of statues, and usually there's a story behind the statues, or this mural of this beautiful woman above the door. And so as I'm reading about it, it's like, oh, well, they have a lobby that's open. It's open to the public. You can go on inside. Like, what the fuck am I doing out here then? Sure, it's pretty on the outside, but let's take a look inside. Go inside, and sure enough, the building's gorgeous inside. There's not much that is open to the public. It's town hall. It's where political figures and local government meets up and discusses and plans things. But they had it was beautiful inside with the architecture and the vaulted ceilings. However, they had a lot of signs advertising things like local attractions or things they had done recently. And they were wrapped around these ancient columns, and it kind of detracted from the experience. But inside there was another door leading to a center courtyard right in the middle of the building where they had this ornate, gargantuan water fountain, which apparently was used as a primitive is the wrong word here, but early kind of air conditioning. It kept the building and the grounds cool. And just absolutely gorgeous. I'm just taking it all in, taking pictures like the dumb tourist I am. But again, I don't know if or when I'll ever be back to this place, and I want to, take in the memories. I want to preserve it, and it's something I've been doing since I got back, is occasionally going through the photos, and just it immediately takes me back there. And I'm hoping the same thing happens, when I'm much, much older and need a break from life in the world. So it's still fairly early in the morning, and I'll go. It's just gonna be a lazy day. I'm not gonna really do much of anything because we have to do a lot of travel that afternoon. So I managed to walk on over to the. There's a canal nearby, and the sun's coming out. It's getting warmer. I'm just sitting there. I'm sitting on the steps. There's this group of 3 girls, like early college age, like I don't know, between 17 and 20, early 20s, and they're talking about boys. And I'm watching. There's this large gaggle of geese, and there's a few swans and some ducks, and seabirds and pigeons, and there's just all kinds of fowl over here. And there's this old woman that walks up, and she's got a big old bag, and she's wearing these hideously oversized like hiking sandals, and she's got big brown woolen socks underneath of them. And she takes out a loaf of bread, and she breaks it in half. I'm like, oh, she's gonna feed the birds. She throws the bread on the ground and just proceeds to stomp on it over and over again with these oversized sandals of hers, and she's like breaking it into crumbs and then kicking it into the water. And I realize she has this entire bag full of food, and she has a method to her madness where she's feeding select groups of birds different kinds of bread and doing it at different times. Like the swans apparently get the primo bread. They get fed first, to the point where if a dove was trying to like intercept the bread, she would kick not the dove, but the pigeon out of the way. And the larger geese, she would like stoop over and have another kind of bread, and she'd like kind of totter towards them like, hey, here's some bread for you, and try to get them. They would eventually eat out of her hand, but it was a big trust exercise. And I don't know, it was kind of adorable just to sit there for a half hour and watch this old woman. Clearly she just stores up her bread and brings it on over and feeds the birds. And I realized at this moment, I was totally relaxed. I was enjoying life. I had no responsibilities. As much as it broke my heart, my son was across on the other side of the world, but his mom was taking care of him, and I didn't have to worry about work. It's a Wednesday morning. I had a belly full of pulp and McMuffins, and I'm sitting in the middle of Hamburg just watching an old woman feed birds and watching this guy who's a little too drunk for how early it is in the morning, trying to impress the 3 girls next to me. And I wanted to take a nap, and I'm very much against public napping because you're left undefended. You don't know what's going to happen. You could end up in a van. Somebody could spit on your face. A kid can come over and stomp you in the testicles. Who knows? I don't do it here. I'm definitely not going to do it over there. But I wanted to. I was getting real tired. I was having a Hulk moment. Sun's getting low. It's going down, and I'm gonna fade quick. So it's about 11 o'clock at this point, and I'm 10 minutes away from the hotel. I'm like, okay, I'll go back to the hotel, double check there's nothing else that I need to pack, and I'll lay down for a little bit. Rachel will come back. We'll go to the train station and all that. So get back to the hotel. At this point, I'm wiped. I can barely keep my eyes open because I'm still fighting with the time difference. It really, really fucks with you. So I don't bother setting an alarm because I usually have a pretty good internal alarm clock. Like, okay, I need to be up by this time, and usually I'll wake up like half hour, 20 minutes beforehand and be okay. I'm like, all right, let me just lay on the bed where I'm all packed up. I'm ready to go. I can leave at a moment's notice. Won't even bother kicking my shoes off. I'll just lay down, catch a few Z's. This is like 11:20 or something, and next thing I know, it's 12 p.m. Rachel's texting me like, "Hey, I'm on my way. The taxi's running late or whatever." And I'm in that blind panic. It's like, huh? And because checkout's at noon, I don't want to fuck things up for her because it's all on the company card. So I scramble and I grab all the bags and I head downstairs, and she shows up like 10 minutes later. It's no big deal, but I have that panic. And so this kind of then begins our grand adventure into Amsterdam, where we walk on over to the train station, decide, all right, well, let's grab a couple more bottles of water because we don't know if they're going to serve anything on the train. Grab some snacky type things. What did we end up eating? I know she got Subway. Oh, yeah. So, I used to do reviews on hamburgers. I considered myself a bit of a connoisseur, if you would. But then I realized I don't have good enough taste buds to discern anything and kind of lost interest, so I stopped doing it. Anywho, I'm in fucking Hamburg. I'm going to be an asshole if I don't get a hamburger. Now, at this point, I'm in the train station, so options are a little bit limited. Looking around, we're waiting for the train. We know what our platform is. There's a little bit of confusion with the time, so Rachel goes and clears it up with the info desk, and they're like, well, yeah, it's going to Amsterdam, but we can't list all the stops, so we only have this one listed, but that's your platform. So after that's all settled, I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna go grab a hamburger. And because I'm paranoid about time, I don't want to miss the train, I don't want to cause any problems, I look, and what's the first thing I see? It's fucking Burger King. God damn it, Wednesday in fucking Germany. Hit up, the two staples of American fast food, McDonald's and then Burger King, and I hate myself with a passion. So I walk over to Burger King, and it's like, all right, how could I not fuck this order up? It's like, ein Whopper mit Käse, bitte. It's like, give me one Whopper with cheese, please. And at this point, it's like scumbag brain kicks back in because she hits me with the follow-up question of mit Pommes? Like with fries, and I'm not picking up on that. So again, I have to repeat what I just said. And she looks at me like I'm a fucking idiot, because I am. And she takes her hands and she's like, Whopper, and she's like got them kind of close together. The fingers like not necessarily clasped, but it's you're bringing your hands together. And she's like mit Pommes, where she then expands it like with fries and like nine. Whopper only, please. And then the English comes out because my brain shuts down and it's like panic mode. So I get my Whopper. I get my Whopper with cheese. And I walk back to Rachel, and we're in the middle of this gorgeous train station. Beautiful architecture with the metal girders and rafters everywhere and these big open windows. And it's just a bustle of humanity in there. It's one of those things where if I could sit there for a few hours and just watch, I would. But I don't have that luxury. So we're by the steps on this balcony overlooking the trains, and there's a bunch of people, and there's this woman that walks and stands next to us, and she's clearly just waiting for a train. But I'm crouched like fucking Gollum with my Whopper next to these stairs, trying to eat and just looking like a fucking savage while doing it. And at some point she sneezes and I'm like, bless you, because I can say Gesundheit all day, every day over here, but when it's fucking actually applicable in the country, I say, bless you. So my brain's a piece of shit. And she looks at me. I was sitting there like in full-on Slav squat, crouched over this burger, looking at her like, bless you. She's like, fuck. Not even a thank you, just kind of looks at me like this leery, like, why are you talking to me kind of smile. And I'm like, fuck it, whatever. Just go back to eating my burger. So, we take one train, and that is going to take us to another city where we have to get off and hop on another train, which is the longer one. It's like an hour and a half to get to the second train. Second train is going to be like 3.5 hours into Amsterdam. Now, the first train, we didn't have assigned seats. Second one, we sat first class, so there were assigned seats. First one's just like, all right, let's get on. We have all of our fucking luggage with us, though, so it's a bit cumbersome. Get all the luggage stowed away, and it's like, all right, well, there's no two open seats, like right next to each other. Hey, here's this old couple, and let's awkwardly gesture with our hands, like, hey, can we sit here? And they're super nice, and of course, there's the language barrier. But, we sit down, and it's a bit warm. It's getting warmer as the day goes on. But we get on rolling, and eventually the ticket puncher lady comes on through, and Rachel pulls out the ticket, and we're both paranoid, like, oh, we don't know the language all that well, and all that bullshit. Like, how do we convey this? And immediately my brain's like, oh, I've got this. Fucking let me step on up. Wir zusammen. We're together. And the lady punching the tickets looks at me like I'm an idiot. Like, yeah, alles gut. Like, yeah, I know, asshole. You're the two Americans sitting across from each other. I kind of figured it out. I'm like, yeah, I got that one. Good job, me. So, as we're riding through the countryside, getting out of the city, it's interesting to, take a look at all the sights, but it's getting fucking hotter than hell. There is no ventilation on this train, and we're sitting next to a window where it looks, kind of, you remember how you take the school bus, you could crack it down like about halfway, but to do so I'd have to reach over this elderly couple, and I don't know if it's going to create that like weird vacuum where it starts blowing out one eardrum because the other side isn't open. So I sit there and I sweat and I suffer, and it's awful. But before I know it, we're at our next stop. I don't even remember the name of the town, but it's middle of nowhere. We go and we find the platform for our next train, and this one's supposed to be the first class. So, like, okay, well, I'm imagining Murder on the Orient Express style. Like, oh, we're gonna have a private cabin. We'll have plenty of room for our baggage. Computer, what are you doing? And it'll be a thing of, we'll be able to kick back, we'll relax, we'll unwind, we'll eat a little bit. No, not the case. Now, train cars, we must have missed it, because I can't believe it'd be this inept or inefficient. We need to get on like train car 12. We get on train car 3. And our seats in 12 are like 53 and 55. Train's already moving at this point. We've got 4 bags between us, 4 or 5. We have to walk car to car down a narrow aisle, carrying all this luggage, bumping people, apologizing, nearly having my arm fall off because it was already heavy enough carrying that all over to the train station. But, doing a 5 to 10 minute sojourn through train cars, I was hitting my breaking point. But eventually we hit our train car, and then sure enough, they're cabins, but they're not private. Each seat gets bought out. So we find our cabin, and there's 4 people sitting in there. One guy decided to hijack my seat. He wasn't even supposed to be in there. So he has the whole table like covered in his shit with laptop, drink, and a bunch of papers. So he scrambles all that together and then hijacks it. And we're just trying to get settled. Now, the way it's set up is you have 3 seats on either side of the cabin, and you have this narrow table going down the middle. Now, they had above each of the seats is like this rack where you can put in all your luggage. Well, they had their shit kind of haphazardly spread out across the luggage rack. Like, well, this won't do because I got to get this shit squared away. We got to put our stuff up there so we can sit down. So I begin like, fuck it. I'm going to move your luggage. I'm going to, stack this stuff up a little bit so we can at least put the big travel bag up there. The rest we can just fucking hold on to. I'm getting dirty looks like, oh, how dare you touch my luggage? Well, how dare you not keep enough space for everybody else? Just inconsiderate. So we get all that situated, find out there's, outlets in between the seats, begin charging up my phone and tablet again. And at this point, we're making our way out, and there's a lot of, cows, countryside. Eventually, as we hit Holland, Rachel saw, the traditional windmill. I was passed out at this point until she nudged me awake because I began snoring, or the sleep apnea. Same difference. And was getting looks. And it was pretty uneventful until we found out that 2 of the girls worked together, and they had colleagues on another train. They were going to Amsterdam for holiday. In fact, everybody in that cabin, including us, were going to Amsterdam for holiday. And there's one other guy who's not connected to the 2 girls. He gets off at a stop, and then their colleagues decide to kind of come in, and it's just going on and on and on and on, talking real loudly, and it was just so goddamn annoying because it was a solid hour of that. It's awkward because we're sitting there. At this point, we're fairly convinced they're not speaking. If it is German, I'm not picking up on what they're saying at all. It might have been Dutch, I don't know, but it wouldn't make sense for them to go to, Holland on holiday if they lived in Germany. But what do I know? What do I know? Not much, apparently. So, eventually we hit the stop. And at this point, have to go to the bathroom, so I'm introduced to the pay bathrooms. And Rachel said, oh, yeah, this is fairly common, where most bathrooms, if they're public, you have to pay 1 or 2 euros to actually go inside. Don't know why. Maybe it's, another way of income for the city, which, good on you. Maybe it keeps the homeless out. Junkies, I don't know. So I pay my 2 euros. I go into the men's bathroom. 2 women walked in before me. I double-checked the sign, made sure it was men's. At this point, we begin the navigation out of the train station, which is confusing at best. There's this couple from Australia. So as we're trying to leave the train station, there are these kind of like turnstiles where there's a gate, and everybody has these travel cards. They're, I guess, for getting around Amsterdam, where you can use them for transit, like buses, trains, taxi, things like that. And they're also like IDs in a sense. Now they have a little kiosk where you can buy one, but we're not looking to buy. We're looking just to get out. And this Australian or British, I don't remember, couple isn't figuring out. We're not figuring out. Eventually, Rachel hits the kiosk like help button, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, just use your fucking ticket. How'd you not figure this out?" It's like, asshole, we've been traveling for 5 hours. We're starting to get exhausted. The jet lag's really catching up with us. It's just like I'm getting claws are coming out. I'm getting more aggressive, I guess. It makes me sound like a douche when I fucking say it, and it makes me ashamed. But I'm getting angry easily. So we get out of there, get to the exit of the train station. They're like, okay, well, there's this line of cabs there, so you just stand and essentially wait in a queue for the nearest cab to show up, and then they'll take you wherever you go. So we get this guy who's super friendly, knowledgeable enough, speaks good English, and we're asking basic questions like, oh, you know, we see a lot of people directing traffic. You know, what's the deal with that? Is that common? Like, no, we just have a lot of construction right now. You know, we're staying here. What's that area like? And he's like, oh, you know, you're on the east side of town, or was it the west side? I have a hard time remembering because Google would always flip the map upside down, which fucked with me. Either way, he's like, you're not in the central part where there's a lot of the partying and the younger crowd. You're in the more quiet side of town. Like, oh, that'll work nice. And, you know, what do you recommend? Do you recommend taking a cab, or is it easy enough to walk everywhere? He's like, oh, no. To do anything, you'd want to take a cab. It's like a half-hour walk to get to anything. And I don't know. At this point, takes us over to our hotel, which turns out it was not a halfway home, but I guess a halfway home, a boarding home for women and children. As they described it, people lacking father figures. And it was designed by this famous artist and architect who liked to play with colors and open spaces and closed spaces. And there's a lot of windows everywhere, but we covered up the windows going into the hallway so nobody can see you. And it was cozy. A lot of bizarre artwork on the wall. Very colorful, but just a simple, you know, here's a bedroom, there's an attached bathroom, and that's about it. There's really not much going on. Bathrooms, you know, kind of fixed up the same way, where you have the 2-button system. You have the one that does a smaller flush for urine only, and then you have your number 2 power flush. Kitted out very similar to the one in Hamburg. However, big difference here is while we had a really nice view of the city, it was kind of like our buildings were on the same level in Hamburg. So as I'm looking out my 5th story window, I'm seeing the 5th story across the street. But here, there's this trolley that goes down the middle of the street. There's bike lanes. There's cafes. There's an art museum across the street. And we can open these big, gigantic windows in our room. And it's so quaint and peaceful. And, oh, amazing. Amazing. I loved it. That was easily my favorite hotel room of ever. Any visit. By far, my favorite. So, it's getting late. However, fortune smiles on us, or at least one of us. For weeks now, Rachel's been trying to get tickets to the Anne Frank house, and it is fucking ridiculous how hard it is to get tickets there. I have to take a drink. Now, they keep a certain amount of tickets like available to buy in person on the day of. The others they sell and like they trickle it out throughout the day online. And so we had been checking online repeatedly to get tickets, and she was lucky enough. Oh, hey, I got a ticket. I might be able to get 2. I'm like, no, just get the one. Don't fucking worry about it. So she gets the one ticket, and we decide, all right, because that ticket happened to be for that night. Like you got the ticket for like the last walkthrough. Let's fucking go. So we drop off our bags. We take in the hotel and punch in the directions on, again, Google Maps, which was the fucking savior of this trip. It's like, oh yeah, no, it's pretty much just a half-hour walk that away. You just keep heading straight and you're going to fucking run into it. And it was pretty spot on. Now, this walk from our hotel to the Anne Frank house leads us right through the center of the city, over multiple canals, right by the Royal Palace. And it was just amazing. Unlike Hamburg, which shuts down at 8 o'clock every night, Hamburg is alive. I mean, Amsterdam's alive. There's just so much going on. As we're walking, we notice there's more and more shops. There's more and more people. There's a lot of head shops. There's a lot of pot brownies and essentially just pot-related everything. But there's also a lot of food shops. You get the fries in a cup with mayo on top, and there's burger shops and pizzerias, and you can get waffles with ice cream on top. And like, oh, these are my people. They love food as much as I do. Usually they have to get high to enjoy it, whereas my fat ass just likes it as it is. But and we're walking past the Royal Palace. There's this big town square there where there's performers. It's like, well, we can't stop. We got to make sure we hit Anne Frank's house. And there's just lights and the canals and boats going down the canals, and it's perfect weather outside. It was nirvana. Eventually we make it though to the Anne Frank house. Big line of people. It's like, okay, well, you go enjoy the Anne Frank house. I can't imagine it taking more than 15, 20 minutes because it's a guided tour. It's a very small group because, it was a very small place that she lived in. I'll just hang out outside. So as I'm sitting outside, pull out my umbrella, which she was smart enough to buy when we got to Amsterdam in the train station because it was starting to rain. I'm sitting out there, and it's taken a while. Sun's already gone down. It's dark out. It's misting pretty hard. There's a few people kind of milling about. A lot of traffic going down this little road. And I'm taking pictures and texting my mom, hey, I know you really like Anne Frank, so guess where I am. But I'm sitting out there so long, I was able to find a bench that was still dry. So all right, I'm going to plop my ass down here. And eventually security comes over, like, hey, what's going on? Oh, I'm just waiting for somebody. They're taking the tour. And he's like, oh, they're taking the tour? Is that the exit over there? I don't know. I would assume so. It's like, I understand he's doing his job. He's making sure, any suspicious people are vetted and whatnot. But it's like, why ask me where the exit is? I'm not inside, so I clearly don't know. But then again, I guess I could have taken the tour beforehand and then, been waiting for somebody. And it would be weird if I was out there for a half hour. Anywho, he fucks off, leaves me alone. Rachel comes back, tells me all about it. And at this point, it's like, all right, well, we're both starving. Let's walk back, the same way, because again, it's a straight shot back to our hotel. We'll grab some food along the way and just hit the hay. We've got a big day ahead of us tomorrow. So as we're walking back, we pass Madame Tussauds wax house, and we're back by the Royal Palace, and we find this little burger shack, and it's this couple, real adorable couple running it. Now every one of these stores is absolutely tiny. You walk in and there's no back room. Most of them have these narrow stairs that go up into a second floor space, or they have the trap door you see behind a bar where it goes downstairs, and they had the ladder. But you walk in and there's 3 seats facing the window, a small counter, a single grill in the back, a single grill and a single fryer, and then they have canned drinks. And we paid I don't know, fucking 30 euros for 2 burgers, fries, and cans of Coke. But it was so good. And Rachel ended up getting the fries with, it was mayo and garlic, and I didn't want anything on mine. I ended up stealing half of her garlic mayo, and it was so good. The burgers were top notch. And it could be that we were famished, and hunger's the best spice. But it kind of topped everything off. I'd be sitting in Amsterdam with my fiance, looking at all the people, just kind of, in the magic of the moment, eating delicious burger. And, we walk without any real hullabaloo back to the hotel, put on The Office on the tablet, and just pass out. So, shit, it is really taking me like a full episode to get through each one of these days. We did a lot. So there should only really be one more, though, because we were only there for another day and a morning. So we'll go over that next week. And otherwise, yeah. So look forward to these showing up Fridays or Saturdays. I'll definitely record Friday, though. And if you want to write the show, drop us an email over at theunwashedasses@gmail.com. Again, theunwashedasses@gmail.com. And if you want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/0and09. All I ask is pitch in $1 or $2 every month. Keeps the shows going. Lets me know I'm doing a good job. But, it's a value for value. If you don't think that you're getting value, even a $1 a month. If this is not worth $1 a month, don't give me anything. Give me a big old fuck you with an email. But if you're enjoying it, all I ask, $1 a month. That's it. But otherwise, yeah, we'll have this posted up. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. And then, of course, we'll have a static video version on the YouTube. We're at youtube.com/0and09. But otherwise, we'll see you next week.